In the land of Umoike, people remembered weddings. They remembered the food, the dancing, the way palm wine foamed over calabashes. They remembered who wore the brightest George wrapper and who slaughtered the biggest goat. They remembered Nneka's wedding. She was not the most beautiful girl in the village, but she had a quiet face, the kind that looked like it was always thinking before speaking. When Emeka came to ask for a hand, people nodded in approval. He is a good and God-fearing man, one of the first young men to start attending the small white church the missionary built near the village square. It was a good marriage, not loud, not dramatic, but good. The villagers ate joyfully and drank in celebration of the newlyweds. The elders offered prayers, asking for fruitfulness and prosperity. The first year of her marriage, no one asked her any questions. The second year, they began to smile differently. By the third year, the older women had started advising her without invitations. Just relax your mind, they say. Stop thinking too much. Go for prayers again. Have you checked yourself properly? Nneka smiled quietly through it all, then lowered her head in gratitude. At night, when the oil lamp was blown out and the compound grew quiet, she would lie awake beside Emeka and stare into the darkness. They had prayed. They had fasted. They had allowed the man of God lay hands on her stomach. They had given offerings. They had done everything the new faith required. Still, nothing grew inside her. During any naming ceremonies, she carried other people's babies and laughed at the right moments. She returned them before anyone could see how long she held them. Emeka never blamed her, not once. If anything, he defended her too quickly. She is fine, he would say when someone suggested herbs. When God is ready, he would remember us. He believed that. She tried to believe that too. But faith feels different when you are the one being watched. There is a way a village looked at a woman without children. Not cruel, just aware. Time moved on. Harmattan season came and faded. The rains arrived, flooded the earth, then withdrew again. New brides became mothers within a year. One evening, after another naming ceremony, Nneka did not sit outside. She went into their room. In a quiet corner of the room, beside the small wooden table where Emeka kept his Bible and the anointed oil given by the man of God, stood a simple prayer altar, draped in white cloth, with a wooden cross resting upon it. She knelt there. The house was quiet. The oil lamp flickered softly against the wall.
Chukwu, have I offended you?
Her voice did not break. It was smaller than that. It was tired. The church bell rang faintly in the distance for evening prayers, but she remained on her knees, not blinking, not moving as someone who awakes answers. It was not that she did not believe anymore. She was just tired of waiting. The whole shrine, beyond the dry strain, had not been spoken of openly since the missionaries came. Before that, Umueke had its own ways, its own deity, a spirit said to guard the land. People used to bring palm oil, kola nuts, and goats. Then the white men came with Bibles and hymns. They said there was only one true God. Many believed. Some burned their charms, some buried them. The shrine was abandoned, left standing, ignored, but not destroyed. Nneka had passed that path many times in daylight and kept walking. She told herself she would never go there. She told herself she belonged to Christ now. But the 10th year of waiting is different from the first. Hope begins to thin. It was on a night when even the dogs were too tired to bark, but she stood at the doorway of her house and looked back at Emeka sleeping.
I am sorry.
She whispered. Then she stepped outside. The path to the abandoned shrine was barely a cut anymore. Wild grass had swallowed most of it. Only the memory of footsteps remained. Nneka walked carefully, lifting her wrapper slightly so it wouldn't drap across the thorns. Every small sound felt louder at night. The snap of a twig, the rustle of leaves, the distant cry of a night bird. Halfway there, she almost turned back. Her feet slowed. Her chest tightened.
What are you doing?
She whispered to herself. She could still see the faint glow of a compound behind her. If she turned now, she could pretend this night never happened. But she didn't turn. She kept walking. The shrine revealed itself slowly through the dark. Not grand, not glowing, just there. The mud walls were cracked. The thatch above it had partially fallen in. The carved wooden post that was held charms now stood bare, eaten by termites. The altar stone, set in the center, split down the middle like something had struck it long ago. She stopped a few steps away. Nothing moved, no sound, no wind. Even the crickets seemed distant here. The place did not feel loud. It felt awake. She looked around quickly, almost expecting someone to step out and accuse her. But there was no one, only the old Ojioma tree leaning slightly over the shrine like he was listening.
What am I doing here? This is foolish. You belong in the church. Go home.
She muttered under her breath. Her voice sounded small in the open air. She took one step backward, then stopped. Her eyes fell on the cracked altar again. How many more years would you wait? The thought did not sound like her own. Her throat tightened. She folded her arms around her chest as if cold, though the night was warm.
This place is dead. They abandoned it.
Still, she did not leave. Instead, she walked slowly around the shrine, her fingers brushing lightly against one of the wooden posts. The surface was rough, splintered real. Nothing supernatural, nothing dramatic. And yet, the air felt heavier the closer she moved to the altar. Suddenly, her heart began to beat louder, not because something had happened, but because she knew she had crossed a line just by standing there. She stepped closer to the stone, close enough now to see the faint old markings carved into it. Symbols from before the missionaries came. Symbols she had grown up pretending not to understand. She stared at them. Memories suddenly pressed in on her. Her grandmother's stories told under the glow of the firelight, speaking of sacred grounds, forbidden rituals, and songs that disappeared when the old ways were abandoned. Her breathing grew uneven.
This is stupid.
She said again to herself, but her feet would not move. She just stood there, breathing heavily, fighting herself. And that was when the wind started blowing heavily, not slowly, not naturally, but heavy. The leaves of Ojioma dancing on the tree. The night held its breath. Nneka felt it before she even understood it. The wind was not empty. It was focused. Something was aware of a presence. Her mouth went dry. Her first instinct was to run, but she did not. Instead, she heard her own voice break the silence.
I have prayed. I have believed. I have done everything right.
The words felt heavier here, as if they were being weighed. And then something brushed against her thoughts. Not a sound, not a whisper in her ear, but a presence, close, intent.
You are tired.
Her breath caught in her throat. Now she could have run. Now she should have run. But exhaustion can be stronger than fear,
I want a child.
he said with tears running down her cheeks. And this time, the silence answered back. The silence stretched, not empty, but listening. Maker's heart pounded so loudly she was sure it could be heard beyond her body.
I want a child.
She whispered again, softer this time, not demanding, not bold, but just tired. For a moment, nothing happened. Then she heard the voice. She didn't see anyone, but it was just a voice she didn't recognize.
What will you give?
The strange voice asked. Nneka's next words did not come from the air. They formed inside her. They were clear and they were steady. Her fingers poured into her palms.
I have prayed. I have fasted. I have given offerings. Not everything.
The voice responded immediately this time. Her chest tightened.
What do you want from me?
She asked.
Agreement.
Agreement to what?
A pause followed, long enough for doubt to rise again. Then the voice spoke again.
To receive what is given and never question where it comes from.
The night did not move. The tree did not sway, but the weight of those words pressed against her chest. It was simple, too simple. No God, no blood, no ritual, just acceptance. Just silence afterwards. Her eyes burned with tears.
This doesn't mean I stop believing in Chukwu, right? I'll still go to church. I'll still pray.
There was no response to that question, but there was presence. She could feel it. She waited, and the waiting felt unbearable because it meant the choice was hers, and hers alone. There was no force. There was no threat. It only awaited her consent. Her breathing became uneven. She thought of Emeka, of his steady faith, of how he would look at her if he knew she was standing here. She almost stepped back, almost. But then, another memory rose from within her, the 10th year of waiting. She remembered the women's looks, the gossips she hears during naming ceremonies. Her shoulders sagged. Slowly, she stepped forward.
I agree.
She whispered. The moment the words left her mouth, the wind returned. It was violent. The Ogioma tree branches shook sharply overhead. Dust lifted from the earth and circled her feet. The broken thatch of the shrine rattled like something that struck it from inside. Nneka gasped and pulled her hand back. Then there was stillness. Suddenly, the air came alive again. The crickets resumed. A distant dog barked. The night looked ordinary again. Too ordinary. She stood there, her chest rising and falling, trying to understand what had just happened. Nothing visible had changed. The shrine still looked abandoned. The altar still cracked in front of her. But something had shifted, not around her, but inside her. She turned slowly and walked back towards the village, as if nothing had happened. But she knew something had answered. She did not run, but she walked faster than usual. The village came into view slowly. The quiet compounds, the sleeping goats, the faint outline of the small church against the sky. When she entered their hut, Emeka shifted in his sleep and turned towards her. For a moment, she stood there, watching him. It looked peaceful. She lay down beside him, but sleep refused to come to her eyes until morning. The days that followed after the scene at the shrine were ordinary. Too ordinary. That was what unsettled her the most. As days rolled into weeks and weeks into months, Nneka had no strange dreams, no strange voices. She saw no signs. The shrine felt like something she had imagined. She almost convinced herself it had meant nothing. Then, one afternoon, while she was grinding pete behind the house, a sudden dizziness overtook her. The stone slipped from her hand. She held the edge of the mortar to steady herself. An older woman passing by paused and walked towards her.
My daughter, how long has it been?
She asked casually. Nneka froze at that question. Then she suddenly realized she had not seen her period for a while now. She dropped to her knees instinctively in the compound. Emeka thought it was gratitude. It wasn't. It was fear. It lifted her, laughing loudly, spinning her around.
Chuku has remembered us.
He shouted, "Hmm." Nneka said and gave the faint smile. But when light came, she lay still, one hand resting over her stomach. Not in celebration, in awareness. Something had answered.
There are 2 heartbeats.
When the midwife announced there were 2 heartbeats, Nneka wept openly.
Double blessing.
He kept saying. Nneka nodded, but not light. She dreamt. She stood between 2 paths. Both were opened, but she didn't know which path to take. When she woke, she lay very still, listening to the quiet of the house. She told no one. One sunny afternoon, Emeka was repairing a loose part of the mud floor inside their room. He lifted a clay towel, and then something suddenly rolled out. It was wrapped in a red cloth. The small piece was marked with an old village symbol that was no longer spoken of. He held it in his palm for a very long time before calling her name.
Nneka.
Where did this come from? Tell me.
It was before.
Before what?
Before I conceived.
You went there.
I was tired.
That is not an answer.
I thought maybe heaven needed help.
So you went back to the gods we abandoned. And to do what, Nneka? To do what?
I just wanted a child.
And what did you give?
Nothing. They asked for nothing.
Nneka, you grew up here. You know they do not give freely. When a spirit gives with an open hand, it is because it plans to collect with both hands later.
But they asked for nothing.
There is no gift without a claim. And when it comes to collect,
He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. The room finished it for him. The silence finished it. The object in his hand finished it. And somewhere deep in Nneka's chest, she knew something had shifted. She knew something was coming.